Milton.
Welcome. I would like to welcome everyone on behalf of the Milton Chamber of Commerce and the Sussex County League of Women Voters. I am Marge LaFond with the League of Women Voters, and I will be moderating this morning. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan organization that encourages informed and active participation in government. I would also like to thank Eagles Nest Church for hosting us today and for the use of their facilities and their equipment. This is an unusual venue for a candidates forum, but still a valid one. We have received an overwhelming response with many articulate questions. Because of time limitations, I have tried to combine some with common themes, keeping in mind that all questions must be relevant to the reason for this forum, the Milton Town Council election. I'd like to introduce our candidates, John Collier, Alan Sangri, Emery West, and Lee Rivas Plank. Thank you all for attending. We have, the order of today will be 3 minutes for opening remarks for each candidate. There will be a 60-minute question and answer period with each candidate having 2 minutes to respond, and there will be 3 minutes for closing remarks in reverse opening order. The candidates have drawn cards to see who goes first, and without further ado, John Collier, you are up.
Well, good morning. I'd like to first begin by thanking the Chamber of Commerce, the Sussex County League of Women's Voters, and Eagles Nest Church for this event. In light of a pandemic, I wasn't sure that this would occur as it much had in the past. Best I can tell you is I'm a longtime resident of Milton. I've been here 19 years, almost 20. I've been engaged in town activities for many, many years, and been on all sides of a lot of issues. I have a vast amount of experience, and as we go through the day, we'll learn about that. So I'm not going to take a whole lot of time with opening remarks because I think people are really more interested in the questions that are to be asked today. So I'm going to yield to the next person in line.
Mr. Sangre.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, Milton Chamber of Commerce, for organizing this forum, and thank you, League of Women Voters, for moderating. It's a real pleasure to be here this morning. I'm going to take a little time and introduce myself for those that don't know me. My name is Alan Sangre, and I'm here with my best friend, companion, and lovely wife, Allison. Together, we've had the pleasure and responsibility of raising 3 precious children who are all now married and have established and growing families of their own. We also have the pleasure and not the responsibility of 13 delightful grandchildren. In 2012, I retired from a lifetime in the construction industry. Starting out as a draftsman for my architect father, I soon realized I had too much energy and desire to be hands-on than to be a draftsman. After apprenticing in several trades, I started Sangre Construction Incorporated. Warehouse tenant fit-outs, institutional and governmental projects were our mainstay. And if you're familiar with PSECU, we built their banking e-centers on state universities across the state of Pennsylvania. In the past, I've had the privilege of serving on Milton's Planning and Zoning Commission, and am currently serving on the Board of Adjustment. My wife and I absolutely love living here. We love our walks around town chatting and meeting neighbors, and we especially like examining all the unique architectural details of the older homes. My wife enjoys riding her bike to Food Lion, filling her basket, and then riding home again. Together, we enjoy walking to the local restaurants, all the concerts in the park, theater, the festivals, the many parades, and the shopping. Being a cyclist, I'm really excited that John has now expanded his bike shop in the town center, and I hope he becomes the premier bike shop of the Delmarva Peninsula. Our children and grandchildren love coming here to visit us. There's so much for them to do, and it's so safe. They enjoy walking down to the park and playing on the equipment, and then possibly putting the kayaks in the river and exploring all the nooks and crannies of the awesome Broadkill River. One of our most favorite things to do is to walk down to the docks with our fishing rods and catch endless sunnies. And we don't forget to stop at King's Ice Cream on the way home and enjoy it on the front porch. This is why I am running for town council. I'd like to help protect and preserve the very special thing we have here. The town, with a clear vision for the future and proper planning, has the possibility of being one of the most charming, small towns in America, and I'd like to be a part of making that happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rivas Plank.
Good morning, and thank you for attending the candidate forum. My name is Lee Revis Plank. I'm a native-born Delawarean and direct descendant of a Revolutionary War veteran. I was born and reared in Wilmington and attended Padua Academy for 2 years, but graduated from Wilmington High School when the private school tuition became out of reach for a carpenter's family. My undergrad and master's degrees are both from the University of Delaware, so I'm a local girl. I've expressed interest in serving on the Milton Town Council because I believe my education, my professional skills, and my personal experiences honed over many years in 2 Fortune 100 companies, the DuPont Company and Bank of America, have prepared me to perform the function of councilwoman successfully. Town council demographics should mirror those of the community. Adding another woman to the council is a step in that direction. I believe in public service and community involvement. I'm currently an active member of the Historic Preservation Commission, and I have served on the boards of trustees at local and state level organizations. My recent focus has been on preservation in Milton's rich and diverse history and Milton's historic overlay district. During my professional career, I was motivated by goals, both short and long-term milestones that helped me to make decisions and clarified my values. What was important to me and to my cherished family and friends. Those values continue to shape my actions and decisions, but that doesn't mean I'm a softie. I can and do make the hard decisions, the ones that some people back away from. The town's value system is clearly written in the comprehensive plan. Just follow it in making decisions for the greater good of the community. Or the majority of Miltons disagree with it, there's a process in place to amend it. Just follow the process. I was a successful project manager at Bank of America, managing projects that had $1 million+ budgets and impacted thousands of people. I know project management skills are needed for town council. A second skill key is to listen and hear what's said. And a third is to compromise. Compromise is the key to getting anything done in this kind of environment. I've attended many town council meetings since moving to Milton when I retired, and I intend to continue doing so. With your support, I will be able to represent you. Thank you once again for attending today's meeting.
Thank you. Mr. West?
My name is Emery West. I am born and bred Miltonian. I've seen a lot of changes, good and bad, in this town, but mostly good. And I served on the council for 9 years, and I've missed working with the people this past year, and I look forward to working with people in the future to make the town a lot better. I'd like to see our infrastructure upgraded and maintained so that our future growth will be able to be supported. I have served, like I said, for 9 years on the council, and my experiences up and down the state with different entities of the state. I retired from Del Dot 28 years, and I belonged to the two Masonic organizations. I also helped Charlie Fleetwood put on the summer concerts, which everybody gets a lot of enjoyment out of. And I hope to be able to continue to serve the people of Milton to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you. First question. This was probably one of the most addressed issues in the questions that we received. I'm going to read from one of the questions, but the Planning and Zoning Commission recently moved ahead a plan that could allow construction of a 145-foot tall cell phone tower on Front Street. Location is in a floodplain. It is adjacent to the town's historic district, and it is a block away from the town center. Do you support the placement of the tower here? And if not, what steps will you take to prevent it being built? And does it fall within the parameters of the comprehensive plan? Mr. Sangre, you will go first with that one.
Very good question, and I'm happy to answer this one. I've read the comp plan, had a little hand in putting it together, a very small hand putting it together, but I've studied our town's comprehensive plan. And I believe that there are serious comprehensive plan inconsistencies with this cell tower being suggested to be placed on Front Street. I believe there's several code issues that this violates that would negate putting a cell tower in this place. And I've got pages of information and documentation of how this is not consistent with our town's comprehensive plan. I've got 5 code issues that I've detailed that are not consistent with our code. What I'd like to talk about is the fact that they're talking about putting a cell tower with a 50 by 50 foot base station and a 145 foot tower where 3 unique designated areas converge. You've got the Marine Resource District to the north. You've got the Historic District to the south. You've got the Town Center to the west, all converging at that spot. And the comprehensive plan addresses each one of those districts, the Marine District, the Historic District, and the Town Center. And I believe that putting a cell tower there is inconsistent with all 3 of those areas. I also believe that there are other spots that were not discussed for this cell tower. I think you look at Lewis and you look at Milford, they've got them on their cell towers. We've got 2 huge water towers. We've got 2 huge water towers in the town of Milton. Why not put them around the water towers? We did not hear anything from the national, my time's up. We can take the water towers, take the revenue from the cell companies, and put it towards water infrastructure.
Thank you. Ms. Lee Rivas Plank.
Thank you. No, I don't support putting the tower on Front Street. I don't believe that we've really explored all the options. The other thing I want to highlight is that it's town council's responsibility to listen to the voters in the community and to make sure that they take those votes into consideration. I've heard people complaining about the cell tower being inadequate as it is right now. I acknowledge that something needs to be done to improve that. Secondly, I acknowledge and love the Historic District. I'm on the commission. If this cell tower goes in where it is proposed to be, it will ruin the streetscape that I have worked so hard for such a long time to keep on a par. In addition to that, I would like to say that we need to be able, as a town council, to generate options that a coalition of people can get together and support. So what are those options? I've only heard one. Let's take a better look at this, see what's already available that we can tap into, see what could be done on sites that are outside of the historic district, and be able to pull together a plan that will take into consideration the love of the history as well as improving the cell phone reception. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. West?
The council did a lot of research with lawyers for Verizon, and they said that that was the best place for it. Not that I agree with it or disagree, but it would be a good moneymaker for the town. Putting it on I do not want to see it put on the water towers. I disagree with my colleague, Mr. Sangre, on that. But like it's been said, you know, there are other options of where to put that. You know, and it's not going to be no shady deal, whatever is put there. And it's been out in the open, and I know there's a lot for it and a lot against it. And we need to weigh all our options. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collier?
Okay, like the rest of my colleagues, I don't believe that this is the proper site, and I don't believe it for one very basic reason. In my previous life, before I decided to make this run at the town council, I served the town of Milton as their floodplain administrator. I am a certified floodplain manager, which is a distinction that's recognized in every state in this country. And what I can tell you is I also crafted the portion of the ordinance that strictly prohibits public or private utilities in a special flood hazard area. Now, I understand through what, I did not attend the meetings, and there was a purpose in that. And I understand through what I've been able to learn from others that did attend the meetings, that there was some question over whether this was even a public or private utility or not. Well, what I would offer to you all is that if you go to the Delaware Public Service Commission's website, which regulates public utilities, there's a banner across the top of their website, and you click on utilities, and up comes telecommunications. Go one step further, and what you'll find is that every telecommunications provider has to obtain what's known as a CPCN, which is a Certificate of Public Convenience and Need. Therefore, they are regulated in some sense. What the difference being is that the rates, the signals that they use, and everything else is regulated by the federal government under the Federal Communications System. Therefore, public utility in my mind, and I think that's pretty indisputable evidence. I know the history of how that ordinance began, as it was a result of a study that I wrote the grant for, as a matter of fact. And I also crafted this ordinance. I can tell you that it was vetted by the town attorney, the State Floodplain Management Office, and FEMA's National Flood Insurance Program Office. The town is in a risky position should they go forward with this. Now, of course, the decision of planning and zoning is still subject to a review by the town council. There's also a provision for an appeal. But nonetheless, if they're found in violation, they could be sanctioned, and I think my time is up.
Thank you. The comprehensive plan. Have you read it? Will you adhere to it? And your vision of implementing the plan. And we will go with, Lee Rivas Plank.
The comprehensive plan. I attended every single meeting that was open to the public when the plan was implemented. There were maybe 3 or 4 of us that were there. And we were impressed with the fact that this had to be put together in a way that could be presented at the state level and approved. That level of attention to detail is really important for us, and it establishes the strategic direction for the town. I think it's really important to stick to the plan and to follow the process if the plan needs to be amended, and of course it will be at some point in time. But it is a guideline for us to use in implementing the decision-making process. I think that the strategic plan for the town needs to be amended already in order to give us more workable, specific goals. I think some of the goals that are in the plan, the comprehensive plan, are wide open for interpretation, and it might be a little bit easier for us to gauge our progress over a 5 or 10-year period if the goals were written in such a way that they were a little clearer. So I personally would have done a little bit more work on clarification of maybe milestones that would show us that we're making progress. But it's absolutely, in my mind, a guideline that I would use in order to continue to make decisions on the town council. I hope that has satisfied the question.
Thank you. Mr. West?
It's been a while since I read the comp plan, but I know it was a well-thought-out process to move Milton into the future. And I know it was talked about and discussed at council about how we could make things better. And when I left, it was still under review, even though it had gone through legislature and okayed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Collier?
I have read the comprehensive plan. In fact, I have probably attended more meetings regarding not only this comprehensive plan, but the two previous versions than anyone else in this room. I've been involved in a long time. I actually had the privilege of working on a subcommittee in 2003, another one again in 2009, and then as an employee of the town and the town's liaison to the Planning and Zoning Commission, the entire comprehensive plan in 2018. It's a well thought out plan, and it's certainly a different departure from what we had in 2010, because 2010 didn't really say anything. This one has vision in it. Now, there are visions in this plan that are important in order to make it work and work well. And while the Planning and Zoning Commission and the town government have addressed the immediate concerns that had to be addressed in order to satisfy the Office of State Planning, there are other concerns that they haven't even begun to look at. Probably the one that would answer a lot of questions and ease a lot of angst among people would be the development of the Community Design Manual. We talked about this water tower and where it sits. It sits on a property that's zoned R1. It's not actually in the vision of the waterfront district plan that's within it because it sits on the wrong side of the road, but nonetheless would influence the overall look. A community design manual would resolve this in a lot of fashions, but this is going to take a lot of long and hard work, and we have a hardworking Planning and Zoning Commission. Believe me, I know. I have worked with every one of the individuals over the years. So that's my take on the comp plan. It is a work in progress. The other thing that I would remind people is while it was approved in 2018, it's already been amended twice due to recent annexations, and we thought we had everything in line then. And it's due for an overall review in 2023, and I believe the time to start is now. And this is something I would advocate for if elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sangre?
Thank you. I am a huge advocate for supporting the town's comprehensive plan. Our town governance stands on three legs. We've got, and a three-legged stool is the most stable kind of stool there is. The first leg is our town charter, which gives us our legal standing and talks about all the different little nuances of town government, like the different positions and the role of mayor and town council and so on. The second leg is the town code, and that's the big thick book that covers all the town rules and regulations, things like barking dogs and zoning. But the third leg is the town's comprehensive plan. And I want to emphasize that all three of these legs carry the same and equal force of law. I want to quote you. I know the comp plan. I've read it. I've studied it. This is what we used when we opposed the medical facility locating on Mulberry Street. But let me just quote from the quote here. It says, by law, the Milton Comprehensive Plan 2018 shall be the basis for the development of all zoning regulations and has the force of law such that no development shall be permitted except as consistent with this plan. This is not a suggestion. This is not okay, you can call it a living, breathing document in the fact that, yes, it can be amended, but it's a very difficult amending process, and it's not to be done willy-nilly. So, yes, I believe in the comprehensive plan, and this would be my guidebook for every decision I make based upon whatever proposals come to the town. Every new project must be consistent with our town's comprehensive plan. We don't confirm the plan, or we don't conform the plan to the project. The comprehensive plan does not conform to the project. The project must conform to the plan. So we got the tail wagging the dog when these developers come in and tell us what they want to do, even if it's not consistent with the plan. My time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Development in and around Milton. Do we need a moratorium? Do we have the infrastructure to support the development, include in your comments affordable housing and ensuring these areas will comply with technical requirements required by the town, as well as maintaining the aesthetics of the area and the maintenance of the area. And Mr. Sangri, you are first on that one.
Basically, we're talking about annexation here, and I believe that wise annexation and growth of our town are key to the preservation of the character of our town. Wise annexation and growth. There's a whole chapter in our comprehensive plan dedicated to the future planning of our town. There's maps, there's directives, and there's a lot of suggestions in there. What's going to fit into the long-term health and future of our town? I would say that, personally, I'd like to see the town stay exactly as it is right now, but I know that's impossible. Growth will happen and does happen. But any new growth that happens to our town, I would say, has to have a service and a fiscal impact study done by a professional to determine the cost and the benefits to the town. So we have a developer that wants to come in and possibly bring in all this revenue, promises all this revenue, but here we find out it costs hundreds of thousands of dollars to improve the water to the development, or several other possibilities, roads and maintenance and things like that. We have to have a fiscal and service impact study done on every proposal for future annexation. Is there anything that might be detrimental to our town's fiscal and service capabilities? We've got to grow wisely, and I believe slowly, because things are happening pretty fast and loose down here right now in a lot of municipalities. Has a list of pros and cons of all the proposed annexations been completed? Are the procedures of the town charter being followed to the letter? And what impact will the proposed annexation have on our town's character? That must be considered. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ms. Rivas-Plank?
Thank you. I believe that the development of the town needs to be done in parallel with a plan for development of the infrastructure. And by that, I don't mean just the streets and the water and the sewer. I mean the services that are rendered for the community. I mean the people who work in the schools. Are there enough schools? I think that a lot of these options that we are talking about that are part of development of our community are not within control of town council. And that leads me to the point that there needs to be a kind of a talent that's available within the town council to develop the relationships that are needed in order to ensure that all of those things are taken care of in parallel. I think we need to limit the amount of development that's done annually in order to do that. But I think that the people that are on town council need to have the relationships and the understanding of all of the aspects of building a community, a workable community, in order to be able to influence those people who are doing the actual work of getting it done. I think that affordable housing for people is very, very important. And of course, we have a new development that's going to be going up very shortly right down the road on Route 16 and Route 1. And I think that that's an important thing to expand our community and to be able to have a workable housing for everybody that is not rich. This is the beach, and so the property values are pretty high. But the development itself needs to be aesthetically pleasing to everybody, and it needs to take into consideration the history. Once again, everything needs to blend together, and it needs to work together in order to make expansion and development of our community workable. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. West?
I know that the town council works diligent, to manage our sustainable growth. Like Mr. Sangri said, it's inevitable. You can't stop progress. But it is something that the town hall and the council does not take lightly. This deal out here on 16 and 1 in Bay Avenue is still in the final stages, but it took over a year to get things rolling for that, and it's something that none of us can take lightly. I feel that everybody should have an input on how things are done in this town. And that's the way I feel about it, you know, because I don't want somebody coming in and doing things that would jeopardize the beauty and the texture of this town. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collier?
Ma'am, would you mind just rephrasing the question again?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it's, I just put together several questions. Okay. Okay, development in and around Milton. Do we need a moratorium? Do we have the infrastructure to support this development, including affordable housing and ensuring these areas will comply with technical requirements required by the town, as well as maintaining maintenance and aesthetics of the area?
All right. As far as a moratorium goes, I don't believe we're ripe for that just yet. What I would tell the voters is that the processes are followed, and there are a lot of processes that occur outside of town that impact how an annexation is viewed. There's a preliminary land user service review done by the Office of State Planning, and that's required for any subdivision or any type of growth that is greater than 5 acres or 50 lots. And I can tell you that the town did do this with the 2 most recent annexations. I can tell you that they followed the process in the charter, and I can tell you this because I was there. I attended the plus reviews. I heard what was said. Every utility provider and service provider is polled and must respond to the committee that reviews an annexation petition as to whether they can service that area or not. So those responses were evidently received and they were favorable. So the process, I don't believe, is flawed. Again, you have to take these on a case-by-case basis, and some of them will fit with the town and some of them will not. You have to look at the surroundings. There's a reason for public input, and public input is solicited. I prepared a list of, I don't know, probably 100 or so addresses where everybody around the property on 16 and Country Road received a notice, and they were given the opportunity to respond. So while there may be room to improve the process is pretty sound. So they're giving me the warning that I'm almost done, and anything else I would say to you at this particular point would just be repetitive of what the other candidates have said. They've all made very strong and valid points.
Yes,
Could I just make one comment?
very quickly.
Okay, Mr. Collier mentioned the preliminary land use service. Number 2, after a developer proposes a project, they bring it to the town. The town looks at the project, and step number 2 states, if the development request is inconsistent with the certified plan, the comprehensive certified plan, the development cannot proceed. If we do our due diligence in the very beginning, these developers that invest sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Mr. Sangri,
Okay.
For fairness, I'm going to say, I think you should take those comments for your closing remarks, because it's not fair for, with our time limitations, for you to have additional minutes for that question. Okay? Sorry. Okay. Next question. Why do you believe you are the best choice for a position on the town council? Your vision for Milton in 5 years and 10 years. How will you improve communications on the happenings of the town council, including community input? And John Collier, you're first on that one.
All right. Why would I consider myself to be the best choice? I have a long history of involvement in town processes. I believe in transparency. I can say for the record that I successfully co-authored a FOIA complaint against town fathers when they made a decision without properly noticing it. So I'm really all about public input and the ability for the public to be informed what's going on. I have a wealth of experience. I have a wealth of education. I've been following the events in this town for many, many, many years, and I have taken the time to educate myself on these events, gain additional learning so that I could follow and understand the basis behind decisions that were made. I'm not going to say that anybody here has any less ability to do what I can do. What I can tell you is that I have done all of my education in regards to the idea of growth in the town of Milton, the operation of the town of Milton, because it's what I care about. It's important to me. I made a conscious decision many years ago when I moved to Milton to put down roots here, and I figure you have two choices as a citizen. You can sit back and keep your mouth shut, or you can step up and get involved, and I chose to step up and get involved, and I have been involved in many aspects. And that's really my point on this. The processes are in place. They need refinement. We know this. And I'm the guy that's willing to sit there and advocate for these changes. I have a clear vision and clear thought as to the direction that we need to go. I don't have enough time to sit here and outline it for you today.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Sangri.
I feel like I'm qualified for running for town council and sitting on town council for several reasons. You know, I'm an experienced businessman. I've run a company, managed budgets and things. But I think my biggest qualification is my love for the town. When my wife and I first saw this town, we instantly fell in love with it. We fell in love with the historical charm of the town, the safety of the town, the character of the town, the people of the town. We've been well received and welcomed. We've been here since 2013. Like I said, I wouldn't like to see the town change. And what I mean by that is I love the aspects of the historical district, and I think that needs to stay the same and actually improve, because we have a lot of homes that have been compromised, you know, with recent construction projects and things. But I'd like to see the historic district remain the same. My 5- and 10-year goals and vision for the town, I'd like to see wise growth. I'd like to see measured growth. And if a moratorium becomes necessary, which it very well might be, I would support that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Ms. Revis Blank.
Thank you. Why do I think I'm the best choice for town council? I'm a well-educated, strong, experienced, level-headed woman, and I think that I have, in the past, expressed a great deal of love and service for this community. I've been the Volunteer of the Year for several of organizations, and so you know that I am willing and able to put the time and effort into making sure that Milton's on the right track. I think that another goal that I had was to expand Milton's history and broaden it so that it includes not only the white men that are sitting here, but the white women and the black women and the LGBT community and all the rest of the Milton community, so that in 5 to 10 years, they feel that they're as important as in contributing to the community as the white men are. And so that's one of the things that I think I would take a look at. Other than that, I would really love to see revitalization of town center. There's so much white space there that I would really love to see functioning businesses and maybe an expansion of the Historic Society and more activities along the waterfront. There's so many things that I think that we can do together if we form coalitions and if we listen to the citizens and actually have people volunteer more. We really do need to have people's hands and hearts involved in what we're doing going forward. So why am I the best candidate? Because I have a really, really big vision, a really big vision for our town and for our history and for all of the people that are here. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. West.
I feel that Milton has done a great job with sustainable growth, and I'd like to see that continue. Also, I want to work again with the people because every voice in this town should be heard. And I feel that my door is always open to everyone. And if you don't believe it, all you got to do is come knock on the door. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, transportation. The town's relations with DelDOT, traffic problems in and around town, parking within town, and parking within walking distance. Those were all, I felt, contributed to this issue of transportation. So, Mr. West, again, if you would address that.
DelDOT has worked vigorously with this town to try to keep the truck traffic to a minimum. Union Street, Federal Street, and Mulberry Street are state-maintained roads, and they cannot stop every truck because a lot of GPS systems still send them through town. Dogfish done one fine job by trying to get all their trucks coming in their back entrance. They spent a lot of money to do that, to help this town. I know I asked Reed Trucking Company why they're not coming by my house all the time anymore. And he said if they wanted to continue doing business with Dogfish, they had to come out Martin Road and use their entrance, or they would not be coming out of there with their product. And I feel that this has been a step in the right direction. Also, DelDOT at 16 and Gravel Hill Road detoured the traffic there to come into Milton to Route 5 to go out towards Harbison and use Dogfish's back entrance also. And I feel that DelDOT works great with this town, and I feel that they will continue to work with us. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Collier?
All right. Traffic has always been a concern in the town of Milton. The walkability of it has always been an issue, and I have to agree, there are concerns. Mr. West is correct in his statements that the main thoroughfares through the town are state-maintained and under their control. Therefore, the town does not have the end-all, be-all say. There are things that can be done to reduce some of the issues that people have. He mentioned Dogfish Head and the traffic that goes there. They're not the only truck place the trucking company that goes through the town. While there was a truck route constructed around the town of Milton, over 10 years ago, it's not widely used. They talk about GPS. Well, one thing I know is I know navigational GPS better than most people do. And the thing that I will tell you is that every navigational GPS unit default is set to the most direct route. And often the most direct route is through town. Now, in Georgetown years ago, when they were having issues with the chicken trucks going through town to get to the plant that's on the edge of town, not only did they establish a truck route, but they put up significant signage directing trucks to this route. In fact, directing them to a destination. That element has not been put in place in the town of Milton, and it needs to be. But again, it's going to have to be done cooperatively with DelDOT, because they have the final say over what signage goes within their right-of-way and how it directs people. And it's certainly an easy step to take and start. There's currently an ad hoc committee working on issues such as this. There are qualified people in town. We have a resident that's a traffic engineer for a local engineering firm who could be greatly helpful in this. Have another resident in town that's a retired DelDOT construction engineer and is very familiar with the ropes at DelDOT. And these are the people that as a community we should reach out to and try to enlist their assistance. And again, I've run out of time.
Thank you. Mr. Sangri?
It goes fast. Living on Union Street, I know very well the problems of the increased traffic in the years that we've been here. I've actually seen it increase a lot. The planned traffic growth for this area is between, I think, 4 and 5% a year. So we are going to see more traffic, and there's not really that much we can do about it in terms of regulating what comes through our town. What we can do as a town is enforce our laws and enforce them rigorously. And I think that would send a clear message to people coming through our town that if they're going to come through our town, whether it's a truck barreling down Union Street, and I've seen them barrel down Union Street 45, 50 miles an hour, or it's a car speeding down the street, we can regulate and control the speed of the vehicles coming down. Actually, I came out yesterday and there was an officer on Tilney checking speed. I was really happy to see that. When the two 40,000-foot buildings were being considered for the Mulberry Street property, it was estimated that there were going to be over 1,100,000 car trips a day in and out of that facility when it was finished. 1,100,000 car trips a year coming out of that facility. There were people in town, in leadership, who said to me that was a bogus, traffic was a bogus issue. I do not agree. And that was one of 17 reasons why we worked so diligently to put a stop to that medical facility. Not that we were opposed to medical, but we were definitely opposed to the location, and traffic being one of the key issues. Comprehensive plan inconsistencies being the second. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rivas-Plank.
Thank you. Transportation is more than driving. And we need to take into consideration all of the aspects of transportation before we really settle on a final plan. And I don't think it'll ever really be final. I agree with everything that's been said so far, so I'm not arguing with any of the other candidates. I think they're all well thought out. One of the things that I think that we need to address, and it seems to be an overwhelming issue, is parking. There's not enough parking in town center. And there's not a whole lot of opportunity for us to expand the parking that's available. As a matter of fact, it's probably going to be diminished over the next couple of years. So what other options are there? Is there bus traffic that's available? Is there walking that's available? What about the biking? And most of all, most importantly of all, what kinds of incentives can we put in place to help our community to be able to overcome this? What kinds of things that we can do in order to encourage people to walk, to encourage people to bike, to encourage people not to use the parking that's available downtown, to let that be for people who are coming to our businesses. I know that our business partners would probably like that a lot. So we have to look at the whole of it. And I think that one of the very easy things that we can do is what Mr. Collier said. Take a look at the signage that we have. One of the things that I wanted to do when I was a director at the Milton Historic Society was to put up a sign at the corner that indicated all of the free parking spots that were available along streets that were close to, but not necessarily in town center. I think that kind of creative thought needs to be put into transportation as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you. Effective financial management becomes increasingly critical for a town that is experiencing growth and needing an expanded infrastructure. Specifically, what is your experience in evaluation and managing the complex financial requirements of an organization? And again, Ms. Rivas-Plank.
This is a wonderful question, and of course it's the centerpiece of the things that I've been talking about all the way along. I think that the town has done a really marvelous job of taking a look at the finances that are available and planning appropriately. And just recently had a prime example of being able to reverse an increase in taxes because of that management. But in addition to that, what I think we need to be doing is continuing with the cost-benefit analysis that we do with every single project, continuing with the impact analysis that we do with every single project to make sure that the projects that we need to have done are addressed appropriately and quickly. But in addition to that, I think that every community has wants that are not necessarily core value they have to have right now, but that would be really nice to be able to do. And so I think that I would encourage the town council and all of the town employees to look for those grants. We're wildly successful with those grants once we find them, but we have to find them. We have to be able to go in there and take a look at what is available money-wise and be able to adapt the projects that we would like to have done and that we need to have done in order to match those funds that are available. So financial good health is, of course, cost-benefit analysis and making sure that your budget is balanced. But if you really want to get some good stuff in there, you're going to have to look for grants. And our staff right now is very good at that, and I'm going to continue to push that. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. West?
The town has done a remarkable job of taking care of our finances. Our town manager and her staff, they're constantly looking for grant money to help us. I know what it's like to do that because I helped build a parts business from the ground up, and I was in charge of buying and selling, and it's no easy task. And I admire them for the work that they do. And we have a good town staff, and I can't say enough good about them. Thank you.
Thank you. John Collier?
All right, I believe the question related to budget experience.
I can read it for you again if
If you
like.
would, please.
Sure. Effective financial management becomes increasingly critical for a town that is experiencing growth and needing expanded infrastructure. Specifically, what is your experience in evaluation and managing the complex financial requirements of an organization?
All right. My experience relates to first 15 years in my employment with the Department of Transportation as responsible for a small portion of a budget for the department for one particular section. Additionally, I've served the town as an employee for 5 years, which I wrote the budget for the Code and Planning Department. And what I can safely tell you is that in those 5 years, I effectively reduced the budget each year in some percentage, while there was no decrease in services or anything else. I increased the revenues that the department generated and streamlined processes. I have a vast amount of knowledge about budgets. I have experience writing grants. I wrote grants with both the employers I served. So I think that I'm well qualified. I have examined and read a town budget every year since about 2002. I've been there during the budget hearings. I've made the questions. So I believe I've got the experience required. I certainly have the understanding and the knowledge, and I am aware of the sources of funding and where it may come from. I have ideas. One of the ideas that I have is that every year we receive transfer taxes for now. There's always the threat that that could go away. And transfer taxes are generally intended for certain things. But we never earmark any of that money to a proprietary fund to support things, such as infrastructure, or streets in particular would be one. We already have proprietary funds for water. We do no longer need one for wastewater treatment. And I'd like to see the town consider dedicating portions of this budget to specific proprietary funds so that when the funds are needed, whether it be to support a grant or just in general to make improvements, they're available. I think it would be good, smart business. Currently, you know, you get the transfer tax, the bulk of that gets spent goes to public safety. What's left gets put in the general fund or savings or someplace like that. And it's usually used properly, but nonetheless, I think there's a better way. My time is over. So.
Thank you. Mr. Sangri?
Yeah, I'd like to say that after reviewing the budget and going over every line item in detail, I can say I'm very impressed with how our town has managed its finances. The taxes are good, and the management looks very good to me. We have a $3.6 million budget. We have about $3.5 million in expenses, and we actually run a surplus of around $3,000 to $4,000 this year. That's excellent to see, with very little debt burden. When I ran my business, towards the end, we never borrowed a penny. I'm very conservative when it comes to finances, and I see that in the town, and I'm very impressed. And I think that reflects my understanding of efficient budget management. I've never managed for a town, but I have managed my business. I like what Lee says, you know, the grant money is out there if we take the time to research where to find it and then dedicate people to going and getting it. And I think that's an excellent source of revenue for our town in the future. Again, I think that you know, line item vetoing, line item investigation of everything that our town spends is a very important aspect of budgeting. And I think having qualified people review our budget every year is a good idea. Thank you.
Thank you. What will you do to balance the demands for land conservation, preservation, and development? Address how you would work with the county and state officials to protect our drinking water aquifer. And Mr. Sangri.
Source water protection is very important. Again, going back to the 240,000 square foot buildings that were proposed for Mulberry Street, that is in a very specific area called a wellhead protection overlay district, where every drop of water that goes into the ground that makes it into our aquifers gets pumped up to our storage tanks. So source water protection is a high priority. I live on Union Street, and I never knew that my house was in the source water protection overlay district. I would like to see everybody in that district receive a letter so that they know that they are in a very important live in a very important part of town where what they do to their lawns will eventually, some of it, make its way into our drinking water aquifers. So I would like to see a letter go out to every homeowner that lives within the well-protected areas and informing them of some of the things that they can do, using the sustainability plan as a reference possibly. But actually, I've committed to using as absolutely the least amount of lawn fertilizers and chemicals since finding out that my property is in the ground source water overlay district. So drinking water is extremely important. What goes into our water that gets pumped up to our wells, and then how that water is delivered to us is extremely important. Making sure that the delivery system is efficient and modernized, all the concrete asbestos pipes cleaned up, and all the lead fittings removed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rivas Blank.
Thank you. Land conservation, protection of water, environment, sustainability. I think those are very, very popular subjects right now, and I think that they should have been for the last 50 or 75 years. Land conservation in Sussex County is something that takes particular effort because it's so easy to build new developments, and it's so easy to look at profitability from the point of view of development. I think that we need to really focus on the water issue itself, and the fertilizers from lawns are one aspect of that, but the fertilizers that we use in our cornfields are part of it too. I think the partnership with our big community surrounding areas are important. The Broadkill River itself, of course, is something that we really need to focus on because it is the root of the history of this community. And so we need to continue to monitor that, see what's along the banks of the river, and to see that the plants that are there are the kind that do the work of cleaning the river. Make sure that we have the wildlife and the fish that we need to have in the river to keep it clean and to keep it functioning well. But in addition to that, we need to look at sustainability and the way that we use the resources in our own homes. How are we doing our recycling? How are we doing with putting water in bottles and what do we do with the bottles afterwards? And how can we reuse what's available and used in our houses in such a way that it will sustain us going forward and not use up our precious resources? So how do we protect each other? We have to take personal responsibility, and our town has to also take personal responsibility. I don't think that they're doing a bad job at this to begin with, so I'm not criticizing, but I think that the Sustainability Council, or commission that we had to begin with, committee, needs to be reinstated. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. West.
I'm thankful more and more of our chemicals are getting more eco-friendly. And all of the people around me work diligent to try to sustain that. And I know the town of Milton, with our water system, Mr. Wingo works diligent to make sure that our drinking water and our water usage is safe to be used. He does one fine job. And, you know, there's a lot to be said about our old septic systems. That is one great thing the town of Milton did when they did away with all those. And, you know, you're not going to take care of them in the outlying areas until everybody gets into a central source system. Thank you.
Thank you. That is the time we have for the question and answer right now. I hope we've covered most of the things that we found in the questions that were submitted to us. I'm sure there are some things that we may have missed or may not have been covered in the depth that you wanted them to. And so the Milton Chamber of Commerce is going to send out an email to everyone with the candidates have agreed to have their emails submitted, and please feel free to email them with any questions that we may not have covered. And with that, we will move on to the closing remarks. There will be 3 minutes for each candidate, and we will go in the reverse order that we went in for opening remarks. So again, Mr. West.
I would like to thank the Chamber of Commerce, the League of Women's Voters, and Eagles Nest Church for hosting this forum. I would like to congratulate all my colleagues here. I thought this was a well thought out process, and I hope that next week that I can get the support of the people to serve you again, because the 9 years that I did serve on council, I really enjoyed it, working with people, and I can get a lot of things done by different contacts that I got with legislatures, Del Dot, DENREC, and a few more. And it's always enjoyable to see those fruits come to fruition. And if you vote for me, like I said, my door is always open to everyone. I don't care who you are, and whatever you have to say is important. And I would like to hear it. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Revis-Blank.
Thank you. As councilwoman, it will be my responsibility and my honor to represent you, all of you, the women and the men, the elders and the youngers, the majority and all of the minorities. I shall be an ally for the ands. I believe the goals that we can all agree upon are to generate, develop, and implement ideas to address responsible growth of the town, addressing issues such as traffic, public safety, and cultural impact. Ongoing community concerns such as available parking and rising water levels, using the town comprehensive plan for guidance. Development of new small businesses in Milton, highlighting its traditions, charm, and history. Development of a waterfront business and recreational complex in the Marine Use District along with the beautiful Blackkill River. Support small local businesses and nonprofit agencies, perhaps via shared resources such as grant writing and community-wide volunteerism, to be tapped when their need arises, perhaps in partnership with the Chamber of Commerce. I'd like to be known as an ally for underrepresented people in the community and show an interest in, support for, and presence at ethnic and cultural activities and events. I'd like to celebrate and highlight Milton's diversity in its history as well as in its current events. I will continue also to support and communicate conservative and responsible fiscal policies, a sustainable preventive maintenance schedule for Milton's infrastructure, townwide seasonal and cultural festivals and events, and develop and offer public information and training sessions for the historic property owners. There's plenty of work to be done. I'm offering my head, my heart, and my hands to do it. Thank you for your vote.
Thank you. Mr. Sangri.
One of my goals for running for a seat on town council is to draw attention to the 3 essential core documents that to provide the legal framework for the governance of our town. Like 3 legs of a stool, which I had mentioned earlier, these documents play a crucial role in the support, stability, and governance of our town. These documents are all mandated and certified by the state of Delaware, and each carries the full force of law. The 3 C's: the Charter, Code, Comprehensive Plan. The first core document is our town's charter that establishes us as a unique legal entity. The charter provides the legal blueprint for the administrative, procedural, and governance guidelines. Administrative guidelines like who can run for town council, how long is a term, scope of responsibilities. The second core document is our town's codes, which sets forth all the specific rules and regulations that we must abide by. Rules that pertain to zoning, traffic, noise, dogs barking, all sorts of things, etc. But the third core document is our town's comprehensive plan, which again has not, I think, could get a little bit more respect, which provides the legal framework for evaluating all future planning and development. It also addresses infrastructure, historic preservation, annexation, and more. I pledge to you right now that if elected, I will do my best to honor and abide by the guidelines of our town code. I will apply and enforce without prejudice our town's codes fairly, justly, and finally, I will evaluate the future development, all future planning and development, through the lens of our all-important town's comprehensive plan with all transparency. I've shared my heart and vision, and I'd like to ask you to vote for me on March 6th. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Collier.
All right, again, I thank the groups that made this possible in the beginning. I'd like to thank the people who have dialed in or gotten involved and have viewed and are listening and participated in this. I'd like to go on to say that while all the candidates seem to have some common goals, I think that we all are in the right direction. I have a long history of engagement in the town of Milton and have been involved at many levels for many years in the challenges the town faces, and I will continue to do such in the future, whether it be as a concerned citizen from the floor of the council chamber, an appointed official, where I served as a member of the Board of Adjustment and also the Historic Preservation Commission. I actually spent a short period of time on the town council. And I resigned for a reason. I resigned in order to pursue the position in employment with the town because I learned very quickly in my first trip to the town council table that I was not adequately prepared to represent the town of Milton in all facets of town governance. So I needed to find a place to learn. And I thought employment was a perfect place. It was a leap of faith. I had no guarantee of the job. I just knew that I felt I was qualified and I had something to bring to the table. I hold a lot of designations. I have certificates in planning education, government leadership skills issued by the University of Delaware's Institute for Public Administration. I'm a certified floodplain manager, and flooding is a big issue in this town. I have the knowledge and the skills, and I worked hard and educated myself to learn those, to help this town with those particular issues. I also hold a certified construction reviewer's designation issued by DENREC, which enables me to make judgments, and I can effectively shut down certain operations and construction in developments when it regards stormwater management and things of that nature. I've written several chapters that are currently in the town's code. I've written ordinances to amend the town code. I worked extensively on the latest revisions to the town charter. I've developed some of the town policies that are followed today and have contributed to many more. The town has the tools in place to grow into the community we all want Milton to become. But what it needs is vision and leadership to recognize where these tools need to improve, the willingness to advocate the changes, and the skills to effectively accomplish these goals. My position on transparency is unquestionable. I do not fear the tough issues. I'm a proven quantity with an excellent record of service and responsibility. I respond to people. That's what I'm good about, and I do not fear the tough issues. I love Milton. I've spent many years listening, learning, and educating myself to provide a level of leadership that the voters and the stakeholders in Milton deserve. I believe my record speaks for itself and that I am the right candidate to help guide smart and responsible growth in the town, Milton. In closing, I would like to leave you with this one thought from the Roman poet Virgil. The noblest motive is the public good. This statement has driven me for many years past and will be my mantra for many years to come.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the candidates for appearing here today. This has been very informative. I'd like to thank the Milton Chamber of Commerce. Also, the Eagle's Nest Church for hosting us, the tech gurus that made this virtual program possible, and the audience for attending. Remember, democracy is not a spectator sport. Get out and vote next Saturday. Thank you.